If you clicked on this video, you probably are or have been addicted to Hypixel. And trust me, you're not alone. No, really, you're not alone. I myself have been addicted to the weirdest and most obscure Hypixel games, okay? So I feel you, and so does everyone else watching this. If you were to click the random game button on the Hypixel game selector, no matter what game you join, someone in your queue probably is addicted to that game. It's normal, and a part of me believes it's intentional, which we'll dive into later, but first I must disclaim, this isn't a hit piece, I just want to explore the topic for entertainment purposes.
Like a goat, I am made.
Before answering what makes Hypixel in specific so addictive, we must first answer what makes video games in general so addictive. Psychologically, a lot of people are addicted to progression, and that's exactly why every single video game has it. Older games made for the first and second generation PlayStation consoles like Ben 10 Protector of Earth, and a large majority of indie games today like The Closing Shift by Chiller's Art, which I played here on the channel last year, contain a very linear way to progress. You follow a storyline, complete quests or missions, whatever they're labeled as, you advance, unlock things to get harder, better, faster, stronger, and eventually beat the game. This works well for story-based games like Stray, or games with a low budget that can't really afford to add an infinite loop, and is the utmost simplest and most basic type of progression a video game can have, yet is still effective to keep players hooked throughout the gameplay. And while this type of progression works well, it doesn't usually work well for multiplayer games. And Hypixel, which before becoming the Minecraft network it is today, which used to make Minecraft adventure maps, knows this well. In the early days of the server, Hypixel's adventure maps were playable on the server itself, but today that is no longer the case. And that can be not entirely, but definitely partly due to the fact that they're not made to be a true multiplayer experience. In short, progression is very important when it comes to video games, but not all types of progress works for every game. So let's take a look at some specific Hypixel games to start with, and how their progression differs from the rest of the Hypixel games, and then go deeper into how Hypixel as a whole and all of its games get you hooked. The Pit and Skyblock are perfect examples of Hypixel games that have different progression compared to the rest of the server, as they have a more open world gameplay loop, with Skyblock especially being the golden example of this. If we take an MMO like World of Warcraft and compare it to Skyblock, we'll find a lot of similarities, especially in terms of progression. There's a really big map, and the progression is essentially up to the player. While in World of Warcraft, you have the option to choose where to start and what type of character you want to be, in Skyblock, everybody starts at the exact same place, but once you're through that first portal, the world and the choice is all yours. You do whatever you want. You can choose how you progress to get stronger than other players, with Skyblock being in a PvE scenario and the Pit being in a PvP scenario, which is something that doesn't necessarily work with other games on this server, as they're meant to be a fair fight, only separated by skill and the occasional stroke of luck. The Pit and Skyblock focus on progression throughout gameplay, though Skyblock does include some microtransactions, usually cosmetic but sometimes controversial. Mojang, which yes is how you pronounce it in Svenska, doesn't allow pay-to-win tactics, and players in general hate them too. So for the most part, Skyblock is purely about progressing over time on your own. These unique progression systems explain why many players stick exclusively to Skyblock or the Pit, since they're so different from the rest of the server. But what about the rest of the wider Hypixel sphere? If they don't follow the same formula as Skyblock or the Pit, what makes them so addictive? The answer lies in two words: infinite progression. While sure, you can infinitely advance in any game, even Skyblock and the Pit, there is something about infinity in a never-changing space. Leveling, for example. On Hypixel, no matter what you're grinding, you'll always find yourself progressing in other ways which you wouldn't expect. Let me give you an example I'm sure you've experienced before. You could be working on growing your Bedwars level to the next prestige, but while grinding towards that goal, you may level up in Hypixel overall. This is amplified a lot with small things like guilds, because guild leveling and guild XP is also something you get passively if you're in a guild. The same thing applies to event levels, because whenever a seasonal event is happening, you'll also be gaining event experiencing and be progressing through that too. You may even gain some achievements on the way trying to prestige and then focus on those as well, or you may notice that you're getting close to that daily leaderboard, maybe even weekly, and so on. You get it, right? It's like right running a marathon where the finish line keeps moving. There's always one more level, one more achievement, one more milestone to chase. It's like maybe you're satisfied by reaching a goal, but you really want to go for another one. Progression isn't easy, but it's not hard either. The constant rewards for progressing keep you going and coming back for more. Remember in the intro of this video when I said I believed all of this was intentional? Well, Hypixel has been updating older game modes like Build Battle, Quakecraft, and Murder Mystery recently, and have begun adding more and more forms of progression with the form of unlockable cosmetic titles and title colors by reaching certain milestones or goals. And with newer games, leveling is undoubtedly always going to be a feature. Just take a look at the Will Games lobby. It has a traditional leveling system. The reason they probably didn't add the traditional form of leveling to the older games is probably because it would be hard to do so retroactively, so they did the next best thing. Either way, if they're trying to keep you hooked, you might be wondering, how do you not get addicted? Let's face it, Hypixel's design can be addicting, so how do you step away when needed? For me, it's all about perspective. At the end of the day, Hypixel, like any game, is just that, a game. Taking breaks not only helps you reset, but might even reignite your love for the experience, or not, but that's okay. At the end of the day, at least you can walk away from that addiction. And hey, if you've made it this far into the video, maybe take a second to like it and share it with another Hypixel addict. Who knows, maybe they'll appreciate the advice or enjoy the video and keep playing anyway, let's be honest. Also, while we're here, I must apologize. I know the upload schedule has been inconsistent as always, but I'll try to lock in. I've been working a lot on music over the past 2 months, which I'll hopefully be able to share with you guys sometime soon. Anyways, I have one last question before I go. What Hypixel game made you addicted? Let me know. I'm genuinely curious.